It's Thursday, the 23rd of April across Greater Manchester. This is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines. The young mum who needed an emergency caesarean after a hit and run calls for help to catch the culprit.
I'm hoping that anybody with any information about this could get in touch, and hopefully we'll find who did this.
Also today, a review of this month's anti-terror raids after all 12 people arrested are released without charge.
The only thing we know is they've had 2 weeks of investigation, and clearly they have not felt there's been a prima facie case for people to be even charged.
And a warning to people caught dodging tram fares. The fine is going up.
In fare evasion, we believe, is a limit on Metrolink that we need to make sure that we get the revenue in.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, the latest crime figures are out and they show burglaries are increasing here in Greater Manchester more than 3 times faster than the national average. Across England and Wales, there was a 4% rise in break-ins in the final 3 months of last year. It's despite overall crime levels falling, but here the increase was much more, nearly 14%. More than 6,200 houses were broken into, an increase of 751 on the year before. Last October, police started Operation Guardian to offer advice on cutting burglaries. Officers say tackling them remains near the very top of their crime-fighting agenda. Well, have you been a victim of burglary? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Send us a text to 88821. Start your message with the word news. That number again, 88821, and we'll have more reaction to this story from police in our early evening news at 5 o'clock tonight. A young mum is trying to trace a hit-and-run driver who ploughed into the back of her car on Easter Monday. Victoria Siddle had to have an emergency caesarean after the crash and now says she'll never get over what happened. Kevin Duffy has been to meet her at her home in Earlham.
Yes, that's right. Now, this is the damage which this hit-and-run driver did to Victoria Siddle's car. Thankfully, Victoria's OK, and she's with me now. Victoria, we know that it was about 8:20 in the evening of Easter Monday, the slip road onto the Mancunian Way off Upper Brook Street. What can you tell us about the car?
Well, it was either an old-style Vauxhall Astra or a new-style Ford Focus.
Right. Who was in it?
From what I could see, it was a black guy wearing sunglasses, and the passenger was a white woman.
Right. What did they do?
They changed seats as I was getting out, and then drove around me and drove off.
They just drove away?
Just drove off, yes.
Wow. Now, I understand your insurers won't pay for a courtesy car because there's nobody to claim against. What impact is that having on family life?
It means that we can't go out and celebrate our son's 3rd birthday, right, as he's disabled and can't walk. So it means that we don't have transport.
I see. OK. What are you hoping? You've come on Channel M today. What are you hoping?
I'm hoping that anybody with any information about this could get in touch, and hopefully we'll find who did this.
Victoria, thank you very much. Right, well, anyone who does know anything, of course, can contact police. They're on 0161 872 5050, or you can contact them anonymously and free of charge on 0800 555 111. In the meantime, back to you.
Thanks, Kevin. A 37-year-old driver has been arrested on suspicion of murder after a hit-and-run in Staley Bridge that killed a 20-year-old in the early hours of Wednesday. Before the crash, it's believed the victim had been involved in a disturbance at an address on High Street. Several windows have been smashed. Police are now trying to find anyone who saw what happened. An independent inquiry will look into the police operation that saw 12 in the northwest arrested over an alleged terror plot. Now that all of them have been released 2 weeks after the raids took place, there are concerns that it might have damaged community confidence in the police. Ben Bland has been to where the raids happened in Cheetham Hill.
Dramatic scenes in a raid that we were told had foiled an alleged terror plot. This cyber cafe on Cheetham Hill Road is one of several addresses that was raided across the northwest. But there wasn't enough evidence to launch a prosecution, and so all the men were released without charge. While defending the operation, the Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police admitted they will need to start rebuilding bridges with the community here.
Absolutely, there will be concerns from different sections of the community, but I think most people will recognise that we have a difficult job to do, that there has to be safeguards, and this case shows the safeguards work.
Well, I've been up and down this road where some of the other raids happened, asking people how they felt police handled the events of 2 weeks ago. It's quite telling that nobody wanted to discuss it or appear on camera. It just gives you an idea of how people feel about the whole thing. Lord Carlisle, who reviews terror legislation, will conduct an independent inquiry into the whole operation and take into account the views of everybody who was involved, including those who were arrested and then released. Some hope that will help to restore confidence within the community here.
The only thing we know is they've had 2 weeks of investigation, and clearly they have not felt there's been a prima facie case for people to be even charged. That's the only thing we know. And that's why I think if an independent person does have a look at this, and then it will reassure the public that police are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Ben Bland, Channel M News.
A teenage boy's been charged after a woman was attacked by the canal in Heaton, Mersey. She was threatened with a knife by someone who demanded her handbag. The 17-year-old boy from Stockport, who we can't name, is accused of robbery, attempted robbery and sexual assault, and he's due before magistrates. A kitchen trader whose mill burnt down in Oldham on Tuesday night is promising it will rise again from the ashes. Vance Miller says he's absolutely devastated after the region's biggest fire in half a decade ripped through his premises. He wasn't insured and says he doesn't know what to do next. A group of parents who are fighting plans to close a special needs school in West Didsbury are protesting this lunchtime. They're outside the council offices in Albert Square. 8,000 people have signed a petition against the plans.
The purpose of the protest is to bring awareness to everybody out there, the public, teachers, schools, the whole nation, not just Manchester, about the closure of our special needs school. What we want to get out of the protest is for people to listen to us. The local Labour Council are trying to close us down. Those are the people that we object to. We're not having a fair consultation. We're doing protests, we're doing all sorts of media coverage. We're going to go to solicitors. We're going to do everything possible to make everybody out there aware of what is happening to all the special schools around England, not just ours.
A campaign is starting to get people to think more about how much food gets thrown away. Manchester City Council has teamed up with a celebrity chef to raise awareness of how much ends up in the bin before its sell-by date.
And we're going to pretend we're kind of having a romantic dinner for two. Except that one person doesn't turn up, and then what do you do with that overcooked piece of salmon? Well, you'll be learning that any second now.
It's all about love food but hate waste, and there's a scary fact that out of the shopping that we bring into our homes, out of every 3 bags, 1 goes straight in the bin, pretty much. We throw away an immense amount of food waste in the UK, and this campaign's all about raising people's awareness of that. There's a chef here today to give us some tips about how to use leftovers. And it's really just about getting people to think about what portions they bring, you know, how to reduce the amount of food waste that you have in the home.
We're using all those bits of cheese that you're finding at the back of the fridge, and literally we're just breaking those up into our pan here. Now, obviously, with being a restaurateur, I wouldn't actually scrape the mould off the cheese and put it in like this, but I'm just literally showing you today that this is what you would actually do to make the perfect Welsh rarebit. We
spend, as an average as a household, over £425 every year on just throwing away waste food. It adds to our landfill, so there's an environmental incentive as well as a financial one.
Parents are being told not to give 2 types of Bonjela to children. A health watchdog which regulates medicine says there's a risk it could cause a rare condition in under-16s that damages the brain and the liver. It's because of certain salts in the gel. A TV advert for the morning after pill will be screened for the first time tonight. The firm which makes Levanel One Step is promoting the fact that it's effective for up to 72 hours. Bosses say it's vital women know what help is available for them. Alistair Darling has been defending his budget. The Chancellor revealed record levels of borrowing yesterday and a new 50p rate of income tax for the highest earners. He's now told reporters that he's had to take extraordinary actions to raise revenue because of the drop in cash coming from banks. Ryanair is considering a so-called fat tax for obese passengers. Men who weigh more than 20 stone and women who are more than 15 could soon have to pay extra. There could also be penalties for those whose waists touch both armrests. The suggestion's angering obesity campaigners. We've been getting reaction here in Manchester.
No, not really. You can't help your makeup, can you, really? To be fair. and then it will open up all sorts of issues, won't it, about, you know, segregating people. And no, it doesn't bother me.
I don't like the imposing of any rules. There's too many rules in society now. Why punish one set of society just because they've got a little extra weight? I don't think it's quite fair, do you?
Well, if you take up 2 seats, then I guess as cruel as it sounds, then yeah, that's fair. If you brought on an enormous bag and you wanted to take up 2 seats, then you'd expect to pay for 2 seats.
I think it's an awful idea because it's discrimination, for one thing. Whose fault is it the person's overweight? How do you define overweight? How do you police it? It's going to cost him, I would have thought, more to do that. You know, I just think it's an absolutely ridiculous situation, and it just shows how desperate the man is to make money. He's obviously having more problems than we think he is.
It's hard times in the airline industry, obviously, if he's resorting to those kind of tactics. Yeah, they should probably scrap the charges for having excess baggage too, I think.
Right, let's take a look at the lunchtime sports headlines now. With those details, here's Ian Irving.
Thanks, James. Former United favourite Roy Keane has been appointed as the new manager of Ipswich Town. Keane has signed a 2-year deal and immediately signalled his intention to guide the Tractor Boys back to the Premier League at the earliest opportunity. Well, Keane's former club returned to the top of the league after last night's 2-0 win over Portsmouth. Wayne Rooney and Michael Carrick were the goal scorers, but the victory came at a price, as Gary Neville and John O'Shea have both been ruled out for weeks after picking up injuries in the match. And staying with the Reds, Carlos Tevez has hinted for the first time he may leave Old Trafford. The striker's 2-year loan deal is up in the summer, and Tevez isn't sure a permanent deal will be agreed. Now, yesterday we told you United had bucked the trend of other clubs by announcing a 5% increase on season ticket prices for next season. But there was a mixed reaction to the news in the city centre.
We can't afford to go here very often because it's very expensive and it's difficult to get tickets that we can afford. So that's a pity, because we would love to go here a few times a year to watch a game.
No, well, my mate went to Manchester and he got a ticket for 35 quid and it's 25 to Bradford, so extra tenner to watch Man U instead of Bradford. You're going to go out here.
In today's things, I don't find that's bad at all. I think it's, you know, it's not bad compared to inflation. You know, I'd like them to stay the same, but a pound a game's not too bad, I suppose.
You can pay up to thousands of pounds to get a ticket to go and see United on a big game. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You just go to the pub and watch it, me, nowadays. No point going to the match because you're spending £100 without even blinking. And that's on your ticket, your travel, and a couple of pints in there. And when you come out, so you're talking £150 to see the match. And it's hard work in this day and age. Really hard work.
Well, on the back of that news, Oldham Athletic have said they'll be freezing their season ticket prices for the 4th successive year, so fans can continue to enjoy games for around £13 a match. Manchester City's under-18s were defeated in last night's FA Youth Cup semi-final at Arsenal. The Young Blues were 2-1 down from the first leg and the Gunners blew them away, scoring 4 goals in the first half hour. City did pull 1 back, but went out 6-2 on aggregate. On to Rugby Union, and Sale Sharks face Northampton at the weekend with only a bonus point victory enough to stand them any chance of reaching the playoffs.
For us, we've got to get 5 points. You know, for us, no listening to the radio, what's happening, we've got to get 5 points. If we don't, then the results are irrelevant. So for us, it's quite easy. We can focus. Our job in hand is to win the game, get 4 tries, and that's all we need to concentrate on. Other teams, obviously, I mean, maybe they might be thinking, right, well, let's see what they've got, what points do we need to get. You know, their job might be a bit of maths in there, but for us, it's simple.
Playing away from home last day of the season is never an easy task, so I think we've got a real fighting chance, especially in front of our home crowd. We just need to put in a performance like we did on Friday, build on that, and I think it's, you know, we're all pretty positive about the situation. We're just looking to do whatever we can to ensure we give it the best possible chance.
And I guess the final word is, no matter what happens as well, you know, the emotion and so on, you're going to want to go out with a bang last game of the season in front of the home fans, send them away in the summer with happy thoughts.
Yeah, massively. You know, like I was a supporter of Sale before I even played here, and I know what that home atmosphere, the last game, I know what sort of atmosphere it generates, and you know, I know what it's like to pay for a ticket and come and watch Sale. So yeah, I'm totally up for it. Believe me, the players are. We've been training well all week. You know, I've said it before. We're going to say farewell to a lot of decent players and a lot of good friends, and we just need to generate that. Well, it's not going to be in question. It's going to be an awesome day on Saturday, So just can't wait to get stuck in.
And you can see more of that interview with Chris Jones on tonight's Talking Sharks at 7 o'clock. Now, new Lee Centurion signing Joe Williams has denied any knowledge of a deal with the Championship club. Lee had announced earlier this week the capture of the Australian, but he says that he's staying down under. Well, that's all the sport for me. There'll be more at 5 o'clock, but over to James now.
Ian, thanks very much for the update. Plenty more to come on the lunchtime news, including a big increase in fines for dodging tram fares, and we're asking what people are doing to mark St George's Day.
I love the story of St George. I mean, one of my favourite books when I was a kid was, the story of George and the Dragon. So it'd be nice that if we could do something. I know a few years ago, my dad was involved in doing, some mummers plays around my hometown, which, involved George slaying the dragon, and that was a really nice way to get involved.
It's Thursday afternoon. Welcome back to the Lunchtime News. There are more of our top stories online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, a full roundup of how the budget will affect you. Also, take a look at the pictures from that major fire in Oldham that's gutted a former mill building. All that and much more at channelm.co.uk. Now, it's about to get more expensive for people caught dodging fares on Manchester's trams. Metrolink are increasing the fines from next month, as Beverly Walkden now reports.
As from next month, fare dodgers will see their fines rise from £10 to £100, an increase of £90. Greater Manchester Passenger Transport Executive estimates that around 15% of people who travel on the Metrolink don't buy a ticket. Metrolink relies on customers buying a ticket before they board, and excuses like this just won't wash.
Sometimes excuse mine is there because sometimes I get it from my college, but before I buy a ticket, the tram is there. So if I don't get the tram, so I'll be late like 10, 15 minutes, so I just get the tram. So if I get caught, they're going to ask me why I didn't get a ticket. I said the tram was there, so I just got in.
If passengers do pay the fine within 14 days, it will be reduced to £50.
We're very serious about fare evasion. Fare evasion, we believe, is a limit on Metrolink that we need to make sure that we get the revenue in. I mean, all the funds we get through revenue is going back into the system. As you've seen, lots of improvements that are going into the system. We can make a lot more improvement to the system if we make sure that everybody just pays a fair price to operate on Metrolink.
Metrolink has been running now since 1991 and is undergoing a major £100 million makeover between now and September, with every piece of track being replaced. Piccadilly is out of action while the work takes place, causing considerable delays for commuters travelling into the city centre. GMPTE say with 40 new trams, 200 new ticket machines, 4 new tram lines to Oldham, Rochdale, East Manchester, Droylsden, Chorlton and Media City, and even more rigorous policing, the Metrolink is on track to improve. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
Now, earlier in the week, you may remember us telling you about the new training course for bus drivers who have to ride over Manchester's rising bollards. Some have said they feel scared using them after a spate of accidents. Well, this is the scene today near the Arndale Centre, that the bollards there are jammed and still waiting for engineers to come and fix them after the latest crash. We understand engineers are aware of the situation. The road has had to be closed until they are fixed. Street cleaners have stopped working in Manchester city centre. To mark St George's Day, a council worker has dressed as the patron saint to remind people to bin their litter instead of dropping it on the pavement. That is a special series of events taking place to mark St George's Day. There's already a parade at the weekend, flags are being flown and churches have been ringing their bells as well. We've been out asking people how important they think it is to mark the day.
Our local pub holds a St George's Day afternoon and evening. We're going down there.
I mean, I love the story of St George. I mean, one of my favourite books when I was a kid was, the story of George and the Dragon. So it'd be nice that if we could do something. I know a few years ago, my dad was involved in doing, some mummers plays around my hometown, which, involved George slaying the dragon. And that was a really nice way to get involved, keeping it kind of light-hearted without getting down that overly patriotic route. And so I think something like that, a more kind of playful, fun exploration of that is the way forward.
Without getting into that Daily Mail, them and us situation, which I think we all agree.
I might just use it as a reason to go out anyway.
if everyone else is.
Get a large English mead company to hijack St George's Day, perhaps relocate it into sort of July.
Yeah, St George's Day should be important. Not enough people know about it. We don't make enough of being English, let's face it.
Next, a couple of wartime sweethearts are being reunited after 60 years apart. Frank Walker and Mamie Meakin had their romance cut short by her mum, who was worried that her daughter could become a war widow. It was only when her husband died that she tried to track Frank down. Georgia Calvin-Smith has been to meet them.
This is the article that brought wartime lovers Frank and Mamie back together after 60 years apart. They used to go out back in 1942, but your mum didn't approve, did she? No. And that put an end to the relationship.
Yeah, she didn't approve of his being a gunner. And she didn't want me to have maybe get married, have a child, and then they left at 19.
I realised it was futile,
Yeah.
you know, to carry on, you know, waiting, so we just went separate ways, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
And how did you guys find each other again?
The Stockport Times, and it was lovely. I wrote, and the following day I got a phone call. And the voice said, "Guess who?" And I knew it was her right away. It's like going into paradise, wasn't it?
Well, that's what you said.
Yeah, it was.
And I understand that you actually almost needed a bit of privacy at that first meeting.
Well, we didn't. They left us, sat down, you know, our escorts, and of course, you know, they were being tactful, you know, they went into the car park for a smoke or something, you know, and we were just the two of us and sat there in the corner and was doing a bit of cuddling and kissing and whatnot, and we're oblivious to everybody else in the restaurant. And, when we stood up, they gave us a round of applause.
Let's take a look at the weather now with a forecast for the afternoon and a look ahead to the weekend. Here's Michelle Eagleton.
Well, an absolutely gorgeous day across Greater Manchester. It was lovely this morning despite some of the fog. We did have top temperatures of 18 degrees. It's going to continue that way with some sunshine heading into the evening. Now, overnight, we are going to see temperatures drop to 6 degrees, so a little bit chilly overnight, but the next couple of days are looking absolutely glorious. In fact, for Thursday, Friday and Saturday, it is going to be dry and sunny, but on Sunday, make sure you get your brollies out because there are going to be a slight risk of showers.
This is Channel M. Our top stories. New figures show burglaries here in Greater Manchester are increasing 3 times faster than the national average. More than 6,200 homes were broken into here in the final 3 months of last year, an increase of 750 on the year before. A young mum from Earlham who had to have her son born by emergency caesarean after a hit-and-run crash is appealing for help to catch the driver. Victoria Siddle was left with internal injuries after the Easter Monday crash. She's branded those responsible cowards. And an independent review of the recent anti-terror raids here in the North West is to be carried out. It's after the 12 who were arrested were released without charge. Those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. We'll have more on all those stories with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock tonight, but from me and the Lunchtime team, bye-bye for now.